And here is the second part of the manhwa, about a girl who constantly changes her appearance. The last part ended with our guys deciding to go shopping to buy her new things, but everything did not go according to plan. While their volleyball match continued, the first round came to an end, and of course the main character had already managed to win. The only problem was that she was already pretty tired and could no longer continue to play as before. Despite his fatigue, he understood that they had to stop the match, and he was still worried about his girlfriend. He just wanted to help a little, but the lady was only inspired by the loss and was going to quickly ask for revenge. Of course, the boy was simply shocked by such a statement. Why the hell did this girl decide to ask for revenge? Suddenly, she just makes an attack and the game continues. And meanwhile, someone was already standing outside and eavesdropping on the whole conversation. The one who was outside asked for forgiveness for interrupting such an important volleyball match, and this makes our guys stop playing. Just seemed to the girl that they were using the room much longer than they usually do. She thought that something had happened to the guys. They realized that the situation was worse than ever and began to change their sports uniform so that no one would know that they were playing volleyball. And now our young volleyball players finally returned, and the saleswoman thanked them for their response. All that remained for the main character was to simply exhale because it was all too dangerous. He tries to explain to the girl that it was too dangerous. Playing volleyball outside the house could lead to dire consequences, but in response, the girl simply called his name. Grabbing the main character by the hand, she begins to run away at the speed of Flash as quickly as possible, taking him with her. Of course, the boy was worried that she had suddenly decided to leave and asked where they were going, but in response, she simply told him to follow her. No matter how strange it may be, their destination turns out to be the restroom that was in this shopping center. Of course, the main character begins to worry, because for some reason she got confused and went into the men's room. But it seems that this girl doesn't care at all, and now she closes the door. It seems that she really decided to find a place to play volleyball in peace. While the main character sits and does not understand anything, the girl says that she is not going to endure it anymore. She urgently needed to play volleyball and take revenge from this guy. While she changed her image to a sports uniform, the boy no longer understood exactly what the hell was going on. He thought that they would calmly walk around the store and not play volleyball. While he sits in complete shock, the girl asks him to calm down and not worry too much. She simply promised that the volleyball game would go very quickly so that they would not lose much time. Still, the worries don't go away, and the boy thinks that anyone can come here at any moment. But she was worried about something completely different, why the main character doesn't play the same way as before. But he said that this doesn't happen at the first request. And the problem was that he didn't take his sports uniform with him, so he wouldn't be able to play, but the girl immediately interrupted him and said that this was normal, since she simply told him that today he can play without a sports uniform. Just let him be careful. The game begins, and the main character decides to inflict another crushing defeat. He decides to start with an incredibly powerful serve that the girl simply cannot return. Volleyball turns out to be far from unusual and uses superpowers, so now they take damage from super strong hits. But he is very surprised that even after such a strong attack, the girl simply began to smile and say to continue the game. She was only glad that she could play volleyball against a truly strong opponent and asked him to show her everything he was capable of. But there was something strange, because the boy decided to slow down the pace of the game. Strange, maybe that shot decided to put all his strength into his first strike. It turns out that no, he played slowly, but all his movements were designed at the same speed, so he entered the flow. It seems that this is a special technique with the help of which he will simply become the god of volleyball. And this is the face of the main character, who is trying to maintain his rhythm and move across the field at the same pace. And then she begins to understand what is really happening here. At this rate, she will definitely lose even faster than last time. For some reason, strange things begin to happen to the main character, as if he really spent all his strength and the lady even began to worry about him. But there's nothing like that. Our boy just puts on the face of a real Sigma and starts playing even more seriously. He's definitely determined to win. Since he has already been on the volleyball field, he is going to play in all seriousness, and while they are here, he will win precisely until she returns her real appearance. The girl was simply shocked by such a decisive statement and could not believe that she had managed to find such a tough opponent. But then their sports competition moves to a completely different level, since the main character now plays much more seriously, and now it is much more difficult for the girl to fight against him. But at the same time, he himself made the face of the real Giga Chad, and now is not even going to give her hope of victory. Each of his blows towards the girl began to destroy the field. She could not even hit one ball normally. This, of course, is completely unimportant, because every game can still help her get her appearance back. She decides to use a slightly dishonest tactic, which made the boy a little shocked but still remained unperturbed. The next serve begins, and this time it was our friend's turn, but something unexpected happened. Of course, they simply couldn't go unnoticed, and someone decided to knock on their room. It seems our couple can't find a place to play volleyball in peace. But no. Everything turns out to be a little different. It's just that the main character hit the ball so hard that the girl simply flew into the door. It seems that she was not hurt at all, but she definitely liked the blow. With every second, the boy begins to play more and more confidently because his rhythm tactics work just fine. The girl simply doesn't understand what she had to do to defeat this idiot, because he's like the real god of this damn game. But of course, this game simply could not continue forever, because it was in this room that someone decided to come. The girl thought that this was terribly annoying, because they had just started playing normally, after which she says that she has absolutely no other choice, and now the girl is going to do something new. A terrible sound as if someone was hitting the ball incredibly hard, of course, the guy who was in the next room all this time and did not understand what was happening here. Now the girl is simply trying to pretend that they are not here at all, which is why she speaks in a whisper, but the volleyball game still had to be continued. But the main character decides to use his secret tactics against which no girl can resist and simply kisses her. Now their competition will definitely not end, and the girl begins to play with new tactics, and even so she cannot defeat an opponent like him. Still, they couldn't stay here for too long, and the guy decides that he needs to finish the game as soon as possible, so he wants to use one of his coolest techniques. The incredible amount of energy that gathers in his hands suddenly turns into a blow to the ball, and now it is heading towards her. At this point, the game is over, and the main character has won again. A few minutes later, our guys were already sitting in a cafe and eating after such a hard game. She was simply shocked that the boy decided to kiss her, but she still liked it. The main character felt simply terrible because he kissed her and asked for forgiveness, but she already said that everything was fine. Suddenly, the girl decides to make a cool proposal and go to the sea with the main character. He is only surprised by such a proposal and asks why she chose the sea. It turns out that Our Lady had thought about everything for a long time and decided that going to the sea and playing beach volleyball for us would be just a great idea. The main character was simply shocked because they had already had a conversation about the fact that they should stop playing volleyball while they were not in the house. She believed that he would definitely like beach volleyball. While the boy simply did not have the words to say anything in response, his friend laughed because she thought that her plan was simply excellent. While our guys were just sitting and talking, it turns out that all this time some girl was watching them and was clearly shaking with anger. She couldn't even drink coffee properly, and her friend with glasses who's sitting next to her doesn't understand why she got coffee all over her face. But now she didn't care at all about the fact that she had stained her face in coffee because she was wondering what kind of girl was next to the boy. The conversation between the two was still going on, and the girl decided to hide around the corner to eavesdrop on her conversation, just like a real spy who must find secret information. She was very worried and tried to understand what kind of girl was sitting next to him now, but her friend with glasses did not understand what was happening at all. Was it really some kind of acquaintance of hers? After a long silence, the girl's nerves were completely gone. She told her friend that their plans for today would have to change. The friend was simply in shock and did not understand why they should change their plans because they wanted to talk about something. But in response, the girl with blue hair simply said that those guys were already leaving. At the speed of Sonic the Hedgehog, the girl hurries to quickly run away from the cafe, saying that she will definitely buy her chicken later. Oh well, anyway, the girl with glasses understands that she cannot stop her friend. She just wanted to ask what happened, but it was too late because her friend had left long ago. She just ran and begged that that girl wouldn't turn out to be the girl Namju was dating, after which she stops to put her thoughts in order and then remembers something. The story takes place 8 years ago, when the guys were still younger and in high school. Then the boy was completely different. The boy was sitting at the computer all this time, and the girl said that she was going to finish the club's report. But this is our young main character, Kim Namju, who is currently only 19 years old. And this little chubby girl, Ju Wei-aun, is the main character's girlfriend. He simply told her thank you for the girl helping him. He already had too much work, so the help was just in time. Now she can go home and rest. In response, the girl simply took a chair and said that she would wait until he finished his part of the work. The boy thought that this was not necessary, but for her, it was normal. He said that he would try to finish as quickly as possible, and it would take about 10 minutes. She said that everything was fine, and he could take as much time as he needed. At that moment, she was in love with the main character. The actions went back a little more when the girl was just crying, and it turns out that she fell in love with him at first sight. He just walked up to her while she was crying and asked what the hell she was doing in this room all alone, if she was okay. He simply asked her to get up from the floor and leave here, and 3 whole years have passed since that moment. At that moment, the lady was simply worried that, in fact, their school life would soon simply end, and then they would no longer be able to see each other as before. She thought that it was just a great idea that came to her mind. Maybe she needed to confess her feelings to him, and so she came to Namju. It seems that he was incredibly joyful when he saw his girlfriend. Of course, she simply didn't have enough strength to decide to confess, and so she gradually begins to leave. Of course, she considers herself strange because of her excess weight. Admit it, because she was too unsure of herself, and so at that moment the main character simply said goodbye to her. She looked just terrible in her own way, and considered herself real trash, and she was never very popular with guys, and at that time she simply lost her first love. And since then, she realized that she urgently needed to change something in her life, which is why she began to seriously engage in sports and stopped eating only at McDonald's. She devoted every day exclusively to training and in addition started doing yoga, so the changes didn't take long to happen. And you continue to sit on the couch thinking that becoming the best version of yourself is impossible. But be that as it may, she still didn't know what to do with the very situation that happened to her in high school. And now they show us the same girl who sits calmly at her workplace and seems to be too tired. Now Ju was already 27 years old, and the girl had to finish her work as quickly as possible, but she wanted to quickly go and eat. Just like the author of this video who works too much. There was too much choice. The sushi looked great, but the rice balls were also delicious, and she couldn't choose between them. But she just noticed some strange movement in the next room, and wondered if there was anyone there at all. And this turns out to be our boy who is just walking around this place and thinking about the fact that he needs to go to the hairdresser. His hair has grown too much. He just thought that he had already gone out anyway, but that girl turns out to have the speed of a flash and instantly got away from there. The main character perfectly noticed some strange movement nearby, but only when he turned around there was no one there. Strange. Maybe there were ghosts. Our lady decided to soon hide in the nearest room and was now thinking about what the hell Namju was doing here. She asked herself many questions and now understands that it turns out that they have become neighbors. It's amazing how fate once again managed to bring them together. Our main character apparently also has some kind of superpowers and appears right in front of her. Ju was terribly scared and asked him to leave, but the boy's face was too serious, as if he had come to some sort of showdown and would now send his girlfriend to the next world. The main character seems to have absolutely no sense of tact, so he tells her to quickly return to the room. Now Ju was even more scared than before, and did not even know what to do now. The boy decides to use his abilities here. He simply takes the girl in his arm as if she were a load that needs to be carried, and begins to leave with her. As they say, he came, he saw, he conquered. The boy simply said that if he is really tired, then he urgently needs to rest, so please let her just go with him. Now she can't even say a word. The guy who studied with her and whom she likes is now carrying her away in his arms. But what the hell is going on here? Next, the actions are transferred back to the apartment of the main character, who thought that they urgently needed to play volleyball. And he turns out to be in excellent physical shape. He even pumped up his muscles like Toji Fushiguro from Magic Battle. Meanwhile, Ju just sat and tried to assess the situation in which she found herself. She needed to at least say hello to her old friend. Further actions are transferred to the moment when she was already planning to play volleyball with him, but this was not at all part of her plans. The only problem was that she was absolutely not a master of sports in volleyball, and therefore this game was too difficult for her. With her last strength, she tried to play, but everything was even because the main character is simply the real god of this game. This damn idiot simply doesn't leave the girl even a chance to win, which is why he apparently chose such an opponent. Here the girl is already beginning to understand that the boy is simply playing exactly as he pleases. She just really liked the game of volleyball, and she couldn't even believe that something like this could happen to her. But our boy had a completely different opinion, and looked at the girl as if he had absolutely no feeling of pity for her. He just thought she was too cute while she was trying to make her pathetic attempts to hit at least one ball. It was all too strange, but the boy continues to look at her and tries to understand what will happen next in this game. He just decides that he needs to make everything as interesting as possible in order to understand exactly what she can do in this game. While the lady is just sitting in shock, the training is coming to an end. The main character changes his sports uniform, and now the real game begins. Now the main character will definitely not give her mercy. But this doesn't make our childhood friend happy at all. The girl just starts screaming in fear because in front of her was just a volleyball monster. But still, everything turns out to be not so bad because he is not going to immediately carry out his strongest attacks. First, he just wants to check whether she is capable of playing. She guesses that the boy is not giving his best, but due to her inexperience, the girl even accepts ordinary serves with difficulty. While the lady was sitting and trying to do at least something to learn how to play this damn game, our main character spares absolutely no effort to show her all the skill of the game. She couldn't do anything at all. Because of fatigue, everything was as if in a fog, and it was difficult to even believe what was happening now. It seems that while playing volleyball, the lady fell in love with this guy again and couldn't just let him go. She just realized that this was the best moment in her damn life, because after so much training, she was finally able to calmly play volleyball with her loved one. But our boy is still calm. It seems that he has no feelings for this girl, he just wanted to play volleyball. Now the lady just sits and cannot believe that this is happening now. Everything seemed like a dream. Could she really be with her beloved now? But suddenly she just gets up and realizes that she has absolutely no time to play volleyball right now. The girl simply realized that she urgently needed to explain to the main character what kind of situation was happening now. But it seemed that she would not do it. Very powerful blow appears before her eyes, and she clearly did not expect that the main character would dare to hit the ball with such force. Damn, he's really powerful, the girl thought before taking the strongest serve in her face. Namju was still calm and didn't even feel any emotions after making such a strong blow. What the hell does the girl think? This guy just came to this apartment with her and is now going to play volleyball. How is this even possible? I don't understand the main character's motivation a little, because he already has an excellent opponent. Why did he decide to take this particular girl with him? But at the same time, because the main character was constantly looking at her, the girl still agrees to continue the game, where she is going to leave this field. And then the plot gradually begins to go differently, and it seems that she is now glad that she is playing volleyball with her first love. But whatever one may say, it was still too difficult. During training, she still managed to learn the basics, but she could not completely resist him. Now she was able to fully understand how talented the main character was, and getting such a gaming experience was a real honor for her. But as you might have already guessed, the main character is simply watching all this from the side and is not even going to say a word. Now she has a lot more questions about the fact that the boy is watching her play too closely. If so, now the boy is no longer going to restrain his strength, and the game begins at a new level that his opponent cannot resist. Each blow was simply incredibly strong, and now Ju could no longer even simply keep up with his attacks. How could such a monster even exist? Suddenly she still understands that she definitely won't be able to continue the game. It became simply impossible to breathe. So now she can't even fight. Somehow, miraculously, this damn game continues, and then the boy decides to take a short break. Of course, she was simply shocked that the main character turns out to have a sense of compassion. Suddenly our boy says that he simply cannot play like before anymore. Of course, the girl is simply shocked by such a statement and asks what he is going to do next. It seems that he had just a great plan for this volleyball game. Seemed to him as if someone was knocking on the door, so he asked her to wait for a while, but she thought it was strange that he would leave like that during the game. Having opened the door, his neighbor turns out to be there, who constantly changes her appearance and asked for forgiveness because she was late. It was completely her fault. She just said that she managed to oversleep, and our boy was just standing in the doorway and trying to figure out what to do, because right now there was some girl in the other room. Suddenly he begins to get scared and tries to understand why she came to his house at such an inopportune moment. He was just going to convince him whether it was really his neighbor, but the blonde thought it was very strange when he asked such questions. He still asked in order to make sure that it was really her. Of course it was her. Who would even come to the apartment of such a loser like her? It turns out that the main character was simply confused and thought that all this time it was his neighbor who was in his room. And now a very logical question arises. Who did he manage to bring to his home? The boy immediately hurried to his room to figure out the situation, but the neighbor was left to just watch and not understand what was happening. Now she also notices an extra pair of shoes on the doorstep and still understands that this idiot has someone in his apartment. Meanwhile, Ju just sits and doesn't know what to do. The main character just ran away and she was thinking about just changing her sports uniform and leaving. With a speed clearly greater than that of the Flash, he bursts into the room and thereby scares his new friend. It seems that she did not expect such a quick return. While he looked at her as if a robber had broken into his house, the girl simply asked what happened to him, why he was so excited. Meanwhile, he just looks at her and tries to understand who the hell she is. Complete misunderstanding makes them both just stand there and look at each other as if they weren't playing volleyball a few minutes ago. Still, they changed their sports uniform and the girl still said that her name was Ju. Maybe the main character would still remember her. Of course, he will remember how a boy can completely forget his best friend from high school who constantly helped him. But she just reacted strangely to the fact that he remembered her for so long. In response, he simply noted that it was too surprising, because they now lived too close. But only during the story he realizes that he was practically playing volleyball with a girl whom he confused with his neighbor and even froze. The friend began to worry that there was something wrong with the guy, when suddenly this idiot just falls face down on the ground and says that he wants to die as soon as possible. So far, the main character simply began to ask for forgiveness because she found herself in such a terrible situation precisely because of him. But only in her opinion, everything was completely normal. She just thought that he somehow miraculously managed to confuse her with his girlfriend. It seemed to her that it was completely normal for them. Now the main character is even more shocked because he thinks that his girlfriend thought that he was dating his neighbor. Suddenly the blonde still appears nearby and says that it is completely rude to make a girl wait near the door. But only she notices the girl who was with him, and the main character is now thinking about how to explain everything that is happening now. Of course, she immediately has a lot of questions about who she is. Maybe this is his girlfriend. The lady with blue hair still doesn't understand what the hell is going on here because she thought that the blonde was his girlfriend. And while these two girls were trying to understand what the hell was going on here, our boy had already managed to say goodbye to his life and write a will. So now he just stands there and smiles like it's the last time. Here's a close-up of his smile. Every word from each of the girls seemed to be like needles in his head, and how can he explain to both of them what kind of situation is happening here? 5 minutes passed and the truth was still told, only now Ju was simply shocked that the girl had the ability to change her appearance. And while she sits as if she is depressed, she also clarified that in order to become normal, she needs to constantly play sports games. While she was simply retelling everything that she had been told, our boy was still sitting with exactly the same smile. Still, the girl with blue hair said that she didn't believe him. Of course, that's what he thought. The kind of nonsense that he told was simply impossible to believe, because in Ju's opinion, it was simply incredible that someone constantly changes their appearance. While the blonde was still sitting, she said that he needed to come up with something more plausible. Suddenly, she just gets up and says that she is telling the truth after all. She understands perfectly well that this damn girl will only believe if she can see how she changes her appearance. Everyone was simply shocked by such a statement, and only the blonde was too decisive. Let them be shocked. It doesn't matter to her at all because she is going to show how she changes her appearance. The main character tried to stop her, but the girl simply could not believe that she was really going to do this. But she just doesn't understand at all why the hell they were both against it, because the girl herself accused her of lying, and the boy needed proof. And then the girl with blue hair just begins to go hysterical and says that she doesn't care at all, but she didn't need to change her appearance when people were nearby. But only now the girl made the face of a real Sigma and asked who told her that she was going to transform right in front of her. The room as quickly as possible so as not to see anything. After which the door simply closes and Ju is left to just stand all alone. The main character, meanwhile, was simply shocked that his girlfriend managed to do this. But in response, the girl simply decided to kiss him. They still had to play volleyball in order to change their appearance and prove to that girl that she was not lying. So let him start the volleyball match as soon as possible, or otherwise she will send her to the next world on her own. It seems that in this manhwa, the main character has absolutely no choice. Meanwhile, the lady is just standing outside the door and trying to understand whether these two really decided that they would play volleyball while she was still here. But she likes the main character so much, and right now he is playing volleyball with a completely different girl. How could this even be done? Meanwhile, the girl simply could not understand why he was playing so seriously against her, because she did not even have the same talent for volleyball as he did. But the main character thought that it didn't matter at all how she knew how to play. The main thing was that she didn't give up and still tried to play against such a tough player like him. He just asked because she reacted strangely to playing volleyball. Maybe now she hates it, but nothing like that. The guy is behaving strangely. And while their incredible volleyball game continued, the girl simply sat in the next room and tried to understand what was happening there. It seems she was jealous that the main character decided to choose her as his opponent. At the same time, she also decides to play volleyball with herself. Although she perfectly understood that she was actually behaving too strangely, maybe she needed to somehow correct the situation. Both girls are playing volleyball right now. Ju could have played with him first, but she didn't have time and this fate passed on to the blonde. Suddenly something really scary happens, and the door handle accidentally opens. This is where the manhwa ends, and you will have to wait for new chapters. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel and like, so that the new part comes out as soon as possible.